and information from. Just like Fedora, Kali Linux also has repositories, and if you go onto their website, you see the link is here. I have marked it. You have these 4 repositories that are the default repositories of Kali Linux, and you can just go ahead and copy paste them. Not a bad idea to do this. Sometimes I don't know why, but I don't find them by default in the repository list, in the sources list, so I gotta do it manually. You go ahead and basically type in cd slash etc slash apt. Oops, apt. ls, and there you go. You have sources.list. You go ahead and type nano sources.list. Press enter, and there you are now in the repository file. This is where they are listed. This is where you can type them in. So let's just go ahead and copy these two. I'm not going to worry about any duplicates now or anything of a kind. Duplicate repositories are not going to break anything, so no worries. The system is smart enough to realize that for itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the 4 of these. Later on, if we want, we can sort this out and remove the duplicates or something of a kind, but for the time being, it doesn't matter. It's not going to break anything. Just copy all 4 of them, press Ctrl O, enter, Ctrl X to exit, and there you go. So once again, Ctrl O to save a file. So press Ctrl O, enter, and then Ctrl X to exit. Excellent. Now that we got that sorted out, we need to clear the screen, and even though we've actually placed our repositories there, it doesn't matter. The system will still not be able to pick anything up from them until we actually perform the following. So we need to do apt-get the space update. So we're not upgrading the system, we're just updating the repository lists. This should go through relatively fast, and at the end it is most likely going to report duplicates, but that is fine, that is okay, there is no problem there. If you're wondering why are we doing this, well, we do need these repositories in order to install the necessary headers for Kali Linux kernel, which we will need in order to install VirtualBox guest editions to get full screen functionality. Because if we continue to work like this in this smaller screen, it wouldn't be good, trust me. Primarily because we're going to be doing a lot of things, we're going to need a lot of windows that are open, and that can present problems. So there you go. It's not an error, it's a W, so it's a warning. It says duplicate sources list, duplicate sources list, duplicate sources list. No big deal there. We can correct these problems later on if we wish, but for the time being, there is no need. Let me just go ahead and clear the screen. And now what I want to do is install 2 more packages which will allow me to actually install and run VirtualBox guest editions. So I have a pre-built command here for you that I'm going to run. It goes like this basically. You have apt-get. You're calling the packet manager, you're telling it to do an update, but since we already did a few updates, I don't actually need that portion of the command. I'm just going to go ahead and use apt-get install-y, and then I have dkms. That's one package, and then I have another package, because you can specify a lot of packages here, as many as you like pretty much. And then I have Linux headers dash, and what this here is, this is a variable. This $sign. This is some sort of variable, a string, and whatever this command uname space dash r outputs, it will be stored into this variable and it will be added to this text line here. So let me just show you. I have uname-r that I ran here on my terminal, and what I got was the kernel version and the system architecture 62, 64, or 32-bit. I'm just going to go ahead and press enter. There is nothing to do as I have previously installed them. I didn't want to waste time during the tutorial, but this command is going to fly without any problems, especially because you have -y argument. You're basically saying to your packet manager, if you have any questions for me, just answer them all with yes. So that went just fine. The install process, I'm just going to go ahead and run apt-get upgrade. You want to make sure that this happens after the installation. I already did it, but just doing a bit of a show here. And it says that two of them are not upgraded. It says Metasploit and Metasploit framework, but it says that the packages have been kept back, so this is being done for a valid reason. We will get into that a bit later on, but for the time being, let me just go ahead and clear the screen. One of the first things that we need to do now is go ahead and click on Devices, Insert, Guest Edition CD Image. And yep, there we go. It popped. This is a warning that Kali Linux issues and that many other Linux type operating systems issue. If you have content that is on a CD or a USB or something like that, and if it's configured to run automatically, the system will block it, and then it will ask you for a permission. So the medium contains software intended to be automatically started. Would you like to run it? I'm going to go ahead and click run and most likely get an error. There we go. Error, auto running software cannot find the auto run program. Now the error message, yeah, it doesn't really tell us much in this case. I guess we could take a look at the log files and so on and so forth. But here is the solution which you can apply, as this is a common problem that people encounter all the time. So there are some standardized solutions and patches to this sort of problems. So just go ahead and type in the terminal cd to change the working directory. Navigate over to where the VirtualBox Guest Edition CD is, which is, you can use the same path that I'm using. So media, and then ls, and then cd again, cd-rom 0. Excellent. So we are now here, and look, I have a listing of pretty much all the contents of the CD. Basically, this is a virtual CD. It's not a real one, but it works pretty much just the same. So this is the file that I want. I want to move it from here, so I'm just going to go ahead and use command cp. You can also use move command, but you're permanently going to remove it from here, and that is not what we want to do. So just type in cp for copy. Type the name of whatever you wish to copy. Very simple. And then specify the path to where you want the file to be copied. I want it to be copied in my home directory. Press enter, and there we go. Now navigate over to your home directory. Get a listing. Excellent, it is there. The way to run any script in Linux, any executable file in general, not just a script, is just to press dot slash and then the name of that file. Press enter. There we go. It is running. The guest editions are being installed. I have attempted this process before just to make sure that everything would run smoothly, and that's why it says removing existing things. Anyway, it might take a while for it to finish, but I assure you it will. There's a lot of things to do, and that's why that is why it's taking a bit more of your time. Now, aside from the full screen functionality that we're going to get by installing VirtualBox Guest Editions, just in case you think it's a bit of a pointless effort if you are a student, because as a teacher, I have to have the full screen so you can see everything. You also have, under devices, drag and drop and shared clipboard. What these drag and drop, the name itself is self-explanatory. You just pull a file from somewhere and then pull it onto your virtual machine, or vice versa. But I don't like to enable drag and drop. What I do like to do is enable shared clipboard host to guest. Now here's why. I use my browser on my host machine primarily because you tend to watch a video or two somewhere about something, and you don't really want to go about installing Flash on Kali Linux. It can be problematic. So host to guest copy pasting is very useful, and you will need it, I assure you. Now there is a shared folder settings. You can either construct a shared folder, or you can have a localized web server on both machines where you can pull the information from and put the information there if configured properly, but shared folders are better for such purposes. Anyway, you can review what has happened here. It has been listed here. The most important part of it all is that you don't have any reports of anything failing. So let's just go ahead and go over it. So all good here. Guest edition, no failures here, none here. Copying additional install modules, installing them, done, done, done. Excellent. Installing the Windows system drivers, very important. Done, done, or just restart the system, the Windows system. Okay, so let me just go ahead and attempt to restart the graphics. So init run level 3. Nope. Init run level 5. Will this work? Nope. Apparently it works on Fedora, but perhaps the command is a bit different here. I'm just going to go ahead and type in reboot. Reboot is a lot safer option. Init 3 and 5, they are run modes of Linux. One is basically without any graphical interface, pure text, and the other one is with a GUI. The safer option when you conduct installation of such packages that relate to the kernel directly, and especially if you have several of them, is simply to reboot the machine just to be on the safe side. It doesn't take up a lot of your time. It happens very fast, and it's a lot safer option. It's going to save you a lot of headaches in the future. Excellent. So we have our boot here. Just press enter and let's just go ahead and close this. Let me just load the full screen and let us see if it will actually happen, if the VirtualBox guest editions that we have installed will work. If they do work, great. If they don't, we're gonna have to try something else, as these things do have a tendency to break and problems can occur. So it's booting. Come on. Okay, I need to log in first. Root and test below. Excellent, there we go. I have a full screen. Let me just, oops, the image is being adjusted. Excellent, there you have it. So we have Kali Linux now running in full screen mode, which is fantastic. Now we have a full overview of the situation. If I open up my terminal and, oops, the scroll doesn't seem to work. It needs to be configured manually. So if you zoom in, that's one of the things that I find very annoying about Kali Linux, but oops, yep, there we go. That's it. That's how you zoom in. What? Control plus minus, zoom out, and view, zoom in, control plus plus. Okay, so I am pressing control plus plus, but it seems to be minimizing things. Oh well, what can you do about it? Doesn't really matter. I will enlarge it later on as we progress through the tutorial. There are a few things that can be rather buggy here, especially with the keyboard keys that you are using, because it's a virtual machine. If you were using Kali Linux as your main machine, as your host machine, you wouldn't have such problems, but as I have stated previously, it is not a recommended option. In any case, that would be it for this tutorial. These are pretty much all the preparations that you needed to make, and next up we're going to get into the Linux command line interface. I need to acquaint you with it. Even though we have done some of the commands, they are a very small portion of what we need to learn, and I do need to explain them to you because we're going to be using Linux command line a lot. Basically whatever we do, we're going to need it. And with that, I bid you farewell and sincerely hope to see you in the next tutorial. Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will introduce you to the Linux terminal and show you some of its basic functionalities. So in Kali Linux, terminal icon is located in the upper left corner, this black thing. So just click on it and there you go. You have the terminal up and running here. By default, it opens up a root terminal in Kali. So if you want to, usually people want to configure it, but if you don't want to configure anything else, this is perfectly fine. You don't actually need to do anything else. However, 99% of the time, people will configure the terminal to suit their own needs and purposes. For example, I will almost always increase the font size so that it is clear and visible and that I have a better overview of what I am doing at the moment. And it also reduces eye strain according to some articles. Anyway, so just go ahead and right click anywhere on the terminal itself, not on the bar, but on the terminal itself. And then you have show menu bar. Now we can see it here. Go ahead and click on edit. You can click on profiles as well and create new profiles here by just clicking on new, giving it a name, and then configuring it in the preferences. However, we're going to be configuring the default profile since there really is no need to create any additional ones. Go ahead and click on profile preferences, and here you have a great deal of options. One of the first ones that you will see is that you can use a system fixed with font. So this is not good. You see, this is very small. You do need, I always need to change that. If that's fine for you, you can keep it like that, but I always change it. And I have monospace 20. If you click on it, you can change the font size here. If you wish, you can change the font that you're using, and that would be it as far as this place is concerned. You have some other very simple options here. It says show menu bar by default in new terminals. I generally take it. I think it's a good idea since you always need to do something like open up a new tab or something of a kind, but you don't need to. You have the cursor shape here. It says block, I-beam, underline. Just want to show you how it looks like. You can view the terminal as the changes are applied. So you have a block and you have an underline. I prefer a block. You can use whatever you wish. It will not affect you. It will not affect you in any technical sense, that is. Have title and command. We don't actually need to change anything there. You can change the title if you wish. We have colors. So I think that this color scheme is appropriate and fitting for me, but you can change it any way you like. You can customize it to the point of extreme. You can change the text color, the background color. You have the color palette here, so you can do whatever you want here. You have built-in schemes. So you have, it says white on black. I can say green on black, or oops, sorry, cancel. I can say green on black. Does it have blue on black? No, black. Oh, this was bad. I wouldn't be able to work on this one. So let's just leave it at black on white on black. Sorry. This is the best color. This is one of the best color schemes. Personally I use on Fedora blue on black, but I'm just gonna leave it as it is here. No need to actually change anything. Now in background, you have three features here basically. You have solid color like this one here that you are seeing, and you can choose a background image. You can download anything you want from the internet pretty much. You can configure it to be transparent or image background. And also you have the ability to have a fully transparent background. And if you click on transparent background, it's pretty much the same as having a background image, except in this case, excellent, I'm just going to configure it to transparency levels, and that's pretty good. Except in this case, your background image will be your desktop image pretty much, depending on where your terminal is. In scrolling, there's an important feature here. It's scroll back. So you don't want to have 512 lines. You want to go ahead and click on unlimited unless you're severely limited in terms of RAM and unless you're typing in a large amount of commands or something of a kind. But in any case, it's better to have unlimited, especially in not only in environments such as these, but rather instead in cases such as these. You don't need to do anything here in terms of compatibility. I'm just going to go ahead and close this, and I have selected a transparent background. And you see this only works for a desktop image. It doesn't actually show icons or anything of a kind. If I open up my web browser, it's not going to show it in the background. It's still going to keep the desktop background image, so the desktop wallpaper, should you wish to call it so. There's a slight delay when it goes about in the update, but it's fine. Doesn't bother us in the slightest bit. Maybe I will change this later on during the tutorial, see how I like it, but I just wanted to give you an option so you can do whatever you want with it. In any case, you can go ahead and click on File and Open Tab. I'm just going to go ahead and open myself 4 tabs, 3 new ones and one that I already had. So here you can switch in between them. It's very nice. there are no complications. For example, if I press open up a new terminal, I gotta click here and then I gotta click here, and usually you're gonna have, I'm just want to show you what it's like to have four of them. So yeah, this is not actually manageable, especially because you don't know what you are doing on which terminal. People sometimes split their screens into terminals. I sometimes do that. It's very nice, but we will deal with that a bit later on when we get into some serious stuff, when we actually need multiple terminals. But it's tabbing these terminals. It's very nice, primarily because you can actually see what you're doing on each one of them in the header. See, these things that I'm selecting, that I'm clicking on now, they are headers of the terminal, or so you can call them. And if I, for example, in this terminal, I'm going to go ahead and say I want you to go into home, change directory to home, change the working directory, that is. And if I change it here to var, and if I change it here to var logs, and if I want to go here to TMP folder. Excellent. So on each of these tabs, in their headers, I can see where I am. So this one, it's home. This one, it's TMP. I don't need to click on it to know. This one is log. So I can know what I'm doing in every particular terminal. And even though you can have a program running or something like that, it's still going to write it out in the header, and you're going to get some extra information there. It's very nice, very useful, and it's going to help you out a lot as we progress through this course and as we get into more complicated stuff. Anyway, I just want to introduce you to the Linux terminal. We have done some work with it before during the installation of VirtualBox and VirtualBox guest editions. But basically there, I've just given you the command, and you're gonna basically just rewrite it or copy paste it, and that's going to be it. But here I will, in the follow-up tutorial actually, I will start explaining the fundamental Linux terminal commands, the most common ones, the basic ones, and there you will be able to see the logic of things and how this Linux terminal works and functions. Because once you actually learn that, it gives you a huge amount of power. All the power of an operating system rests on its terminal, because it's a direct interface to the kernel of the system, and it's a lot faster than the graphical interface. Now, one more keynote that I would like to make here. Uh, Once I teach you how to use the Linux terminal, and once you get into habit of typing in commands, you can use them for a wide variety of purposes. You not necessarily need to use these things for pen testing or something like that. You can use these commands for network administration, or you can use them in order to troubleshoot problems with the system, and so on and so forth. So you get a far wider spectrum of options in terms of jobs or something of a kind, as opposed to just learning something that you can only use for pen testing and nothing else. In any case, I bid you farewell, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will go over a few basic commands which you will need in order to follow this course through. Now, these basic commands, they're used in order to navigate within the terminal or through the file system, to figure out where you are at the moment, to copy things, move things, get listings of files, folders, see the contents, remove them, change the ownership of files, or change the modes of files. You will see shortly what I mean. So first off, we have cd, which is change directory. So if I just type in cd slash home, I am going to navigate over to my home directory. CD stands for change directory. As I said before, you are literally changing your working directory. If you type in cd double dot, you will always go one step back. So double dot is always the previous folder. Bit of a shortcut there. You will use it fairly often. Next up, we have ls. ls shows you the listing of the current folder contents, but you can also use ls slash, for example, home, and you get the listing of a specified folder as well. Typing ls in and of its own will give you the listing of the current folder, as opposed to typing ls and then a path to a folder which will give you a listing of a specified folder. In addition to that, you also have ls-l, which will give you a long listing. So it will tell you who the owners are, the size, the date, the type, the permissions, and so on and so forth. However, one of the more common usages of ls is -la to show the hidden files as well. You might notice that I am not using ll like I generally use in Fedora, because bash ll command not found. I guess I could install it here as well, but it doesn't really matter. It performs fairly similar function as ls does, but it's a bit faster to type in. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear this. Next up is pwd, which prints working directory, and you might find this a bit confusing, but slash in all Linux, Unix-like systems, it simply refers to the root directory, to the beginning, to the root directory. So your main, from where all the files are located and from where everything begins, so to say. But let me just make it a bit clearer. I'm going to navigate over to home and then do pwd. You can see that I am in home at the moment. So print working directory does exactly what the name itself says. It prints your current working directory. Next up, we have our cp command, which we already have used in order to copy VirtualBox guest editions from one place to another. Fairly simple. You type in cp path let's not do it like that. Let's do a real example. So if I, for example, go ahead and type in cp vbox guest editions Linux edition, sorry, .run, and if I, let's say, want to copy it to somewhere, let's say that I wish to copy it to var, I will delete it, of course, and I'll show you how to do that as well, but it's fairly simple. And if I want, well, I don't want recursion, I just want a verbosity. There you go. So cp vbox, you specify what you want to copy and where you want to copy it to. Keep in mind that you could have actually typed in here a folder, a full path to this VirtualBox guest editions.run. You didn't actually need to be in the home directory. And this -v option gives us this. So it tells us what was copied where. Very useful option. Let me just show you what would happen if I didn't have that. Oops, just like this. Nothing. There's no output or anything of a kind. Now this is fairly simple when you have one very small file and you don't really care, but when you have a large file, let's say 20 gigabytes or so, and you are copying it, you're just going to have a blank screen below. Nothing will be happening. You will not be able to figure out that whether the copying process is going on or whether it has actually crashed, bugged, or something of a kind. So just pass a -v option, which is always useful to have, simply because the machine actually tells you what it is doing. Now you might have noticed that all of these commands, more or less, they have their own arguments which can be passed to them in order to modify what the command does. You can view a listing of these arguments. You do not need to memorize them all. So just let's take an example of cp. I'm going to -help. So this is a universal way of getting help on a particular subject within the terminal. You type in the command space --help, press enter, and you get a listing of possibilities. So I know it looks a bit messy and a bit difficult to see, but you don't actually need to look at all of these things here. You just scroll upwards and there you go. You can see all the arguments. They are listed clearly here. You have the argument here, and then you have an explanation of what that argument does. For the time being, you're not going to be able to memorize all of these, but over the time, as you practice more and more, and as you start doing, and as you start actually using these commands, you will be remembering more and more and more and more without actually wishing it. Basically, you'll be caching the information, so to say. Anyway, over here in the upper part of this help menu, you get usage. So in usage, you get the format or the syntax of the command. So basically, cp, you pass an option, and then you specify your source and destination. Very simple, no problems there. This is universal for all of the commands. You can always use the help menu. However, in addition to the help menu, you also have man pages. So if I type in man and I'm gonna use a command pwd, man pages on pwd basically give me a download of information. You can see, okay, obviously it gives you the name, it's called synopsis here, but basically the syntax of the command.